Before we go into detail about positive and negative space, let's brush over some art terminology about how we use space in art. In its broadest sense, space in art can be broken down into three categories.
The first kind is flat, that's 2D space, having only two dimensions, length and breadth. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than flat. A flat space may also be the absence of curves and texture.
Illusionary space, that's a picture intended to hang on your wall but pretends to be 3D, so you feel like it's got depth. We use tonal values and shading and manipulate colour to give the impression to the viewer that has a third dimension, or form, or distance, perspective. A good example of it is trompe l'oeil. That's French, it means trick of the eye. It tricks us into seeing something with depth rather than on the flat surface that it's actually on. This is what we're talking about mostly today, space as it applies to painting and drawing, but more than anything, seeing.
The third term that you might hear is actual space, and that doesn't apply in our studio because we don't really do a lot of sculpture. We do tend to work mostly in 2D.
Now, on to one of the most important things you can learn in order to see like an artist, recognising positive and negative space. This is crucial if you want to produce a piece of art of the second kind, one that looks like it has actual depth. Drawing is the quickest and most portable medium to use and practice this. You do shading and you recognise values quickly, and you can belt out your composition quickly without the complication of colour. Refer to our tutorials on value and form. Ideally, you would do a lot of drawing before you begin a painting with the illusion of depth, or one that convinces viewers that the subject depicted is an actual solid thing able to be touched, see tutorial on texture, and recognised in the real world. It has form, the illusion in art. That's the difference between a circle and a sphere.
So what is negative space? It's the part of your composition that is not the focal point, or even the secondary focal point. It is the empty space between focal points, or the distance between the focal points. It's what's above, below, behind, and around your subject. Looking for and defining the shape of negative space exercises the part of your brain that you need to be really strong to see as an artist. The right side of your brain, if you like.
We can sometimes tell which side of the brain is dominating when you ask people what they see. Mostly the lightest bit is read as positive space, while the darkest side is negative space. That's when the left side is dominating. It's a good exercise for artists to read these kinds of images both ways. Sometimes when I deliberately do this, I can almost feel a weird sensation in my head as one side takes over from the other. Positive space is easy when you're mapping out your composition. It's where you put the component parts, your focal points. Negative space is all the rest. It might be muted or blurry or totally blank. One way to describe and draw a contour is to draw the line between the positive and the negative spaces.
To get a good grip on the concept of seeing the shape or the negative space, you could practice seeing it in your daily life, even only for a few days. Just be careful not to bump into things. Next, try drawing only the negative space to reveal the positive space. Once you've got a couple of drawings in your visual diary, you'll be ready to break negative space down even further.
For example, when drawing a face or just studying it, you see the angle of a person's eyebrow, for instance, and the direction of the upper eyelid. But try looking at the negative space, that's the shape, between the eyebrow and the upper lid. The eyebrow and eyelid are positive features that appear on that face. The gap between them is empty of features, that's the negative space. There's nothing there except skin, and that doesn't tell you anything about how the person looks. That's what we think. That's what our left brain tells us. It's of no importance to recognising someone. If you want to draw them, it's very important. If engaged, the right brain can see that negative space and how important it is in recognising someone. That space, its size, length, breadth and angles can vary widely between people. Look at the inside of a shoe. Outside is a shoe. Inside is not usually seen when worn and not considered important by the left brain, but to an artist drawing it, being able to look for and recognise the negative space that's not the outside of the shoe and it's contained within an empty shoe, it's really helpful.
So that's negative space and positive space. Seeing and recognising them both is very important, particularly when you're laying out your composition. It can be an area where the viewer's eye has a chance to rest and that there's less going on. This contrast will also highlight the detail that is in your focal points. You could, as Degas and Toulouse-Lautrec did, leave an empty space at the bottom or in front of your composition. Japanese prints inspired them and others to try this. It has the effect of inviting the viewer's eye to travel deeper into the scene.
Space can also be used to block or divide a painting. For example, the fence in this painting, it's Manet's painting of his favourite model of the 1860s, Victorine Meurent, uses the fence to divide the space. In front of the fence looks quite shallow, but behind the fence there's a lot going on, but mostly we see steam from the trains. This contributes greatly to setting the scene and his capture of a moment in life that was at that time. Because it is so important to students, artists, please take time out to work on your ability to recognise positive and negative spaces. It will help you to see so much more and be so much better as an artist.